Welcome to the 78-day tarot challenge. This is a challenge where I go on the Fool's journey from the Fool to the World, embodying one card each day, reflecting upon that meaning and integrating it into my life experience, and correlating it to what's actually happening in my external reality as well as to what's happening internally. And so the goal of this challenge is to go from the Fool to the World and try to use tarot as a lived experience rather than passive consumption or a destructive tool that does not help me. Because obviously tools can cut or they can destroy, or they can cut and destroy, or they can build and help craft something meaningful. So that's the goal of the challenge, obviously, is to craft something meaningful. And instead of so this is my challenge to you and everybody else to go through the journey as a lived experience and become the Fool and start from zero and go all the way to the end of the world. Just go through a cycle. Just go through a cycle. That's what the challenge is all about, is go on the journey, walk the path, embody it every day. But anyways, so now that you know what the challenge is, I have to get my intro down better. But now that you know what the challenge is, what is today's card all about? Well, if you clicked on the video, well, you know that it is the Ace of Swords. And if you watched yesterday's video, this is funny because the last thing I said was I think tomorrow's probably going to be a Two of Swords day. And if you are following along, at the beginning of each day, I am narrowing it down to 4 cards that I think should be the card of the day. And I'll be like, okay, I'll do a reading on what's going on currently, and I'll reflect and think about it. And whatever card pops up out of the 4 is the card for the day. And of course, today, this morning, I had the the Two of Swords appear. So I knew that this was coming, and I can tell you exactly why. I already know why. This morning has been definitely a mental conflict. So now that we know what the card's about, now that we know what the challenge is about, let's talk about the traditional meaning of the Two of Swords. So, and let's interpret these symbols together. If you know tarot, you probably already know the traditional meaning. If you don't, you can look it up and go along with me. But we have a moon in the background, calm waters in the background, and a woman crossing 2 swords with a blindfold on. So the swords representing 2 opposing perspectives. And the fact that, you know, the water's calm means that, like, we're and the blindfold. Okay, this is reflective of my current state. Is that, like, I am emotionally, like, calm, not like raging waters or anything. So that can represent my emotional state, right? Which is very true. And then the blindfold means that maybe there's something we're refusing to look at or we're not seeing, and because we're holding 2 different swords in the opposite directions, it's like, well, we're just kind of stuck, you know, in the middle. And the moon can represent something that is, you know, hidden. So therefore, you combine those symbols together, you get refusing to look at uncomfortable truths, possibly. I mean, there are many different ways you can interpret all of those symbols together, but they kind of work hand in hand with each other. So, and given the context, it's like these two different perspectives are kind of keeping me stuck in making a decision and moving forward. And the blindfold meaning that maybe there's some unnecessary, or there is a necessary conversation that needs to be had with maybe even myself, internally, as well as maybe with another person. Stuff that I don't really want to look at, right? But also, like, this it's about indecision, and we're gonna relate this to how it is so windy. It is so windy right now, and every time this happens, it frustrates me. And air cutting through the air, mental stuff is it's very funny because a lot of thoughts going around right now. And sometimes I do just sit here and think a lot. I am naturally just a thinker. I like to think about things. That's like what drives me insane. So the wind is driving me crazy. My own mind is driving me crazy right now. And that's very reflective, is that I am trying to think about, like, the things that I have possibly avoided and what has kept me from moving forward and actually making a decision. And part of it has to do with these two opposing perspectives, which is very reflective of the card, and this is very reflective of the day. This is how the challenge plays itself out in my life. And why this challenge is so important is because when we start to dredge this stuff up from the unconscious, we can actually look at what's going on and be more aware and present. I feel like tarot is a tool to actually get us to become more aware of ourselves, as well as our outer world. We're reflecting upon our mental state, our internal state, our emotional state, our psychological state, and the symbols that evoke those. It directs our attention towards those things, right? So when we have the symbol of the moon, it's like, hey man, I need to pay attention to what may be hidden here. When I have the swords crossing in two different directions, I need to seriously consider both perspectives. But because I'm considering both perspectives and their opposing views, that's what's keeping me stuck and not making a decision. And that's actually present today. Like, it's funny how this is. I'm glad I added this intuitive notion. It's like I'm blending intuition and logic by saying, logically, it could be I want to go in a linear direction with the challenge, right? So that's why I said I picked 4 cards, and then if first one that shows up in my reading, if that'll be the one for the day. And so that's the intuitive aspect of, like, okay, I'm allowing myself to blend intuition and logic by listening, as well as giving my logical input, and then taking actions that are aligned with my intuition and logic aligned. And I think that was a very good idea to add to the challenge. And so we're going to try to add different aspects to the challenge of how I'm structuring it. However you want to do it, you can do it. If you feel intuitive, or you think of a better way to add the challenge or do the challenge, you do that. That's your expression. I want more people to do this. But anyways, I'm just saying that was a great idea. I'm glad I came up with that idea, because if I just went complete logically and said, I'm just only going to go in a linear path, I'm going to do all the wands, and then, it wouldn't have been as dynamic and malleable, or I guess you could say interesting, and I would have just left out my intuition. I would have been just thinking about interpreting the card, or just telling the traditional meaning, and not really, just making the video and going through the motions. And that's not how I want to do this. But anyway, so this is very important though, because this is oh my god. This is exactly where I find myself at, is ironically on this day I am very much already in a Two of Swords. I already woke up in a Two of Swords. I could feel the energy from the end of the day yesterday. I was tired. I didn't get much sleep. I woke up and had a crazy, weird dream that instantly made me had revelations about the past and how that correlates to the stuff that I've been experiencing over the past year. And if I'm completely honest, this is all about the perception of myself and how I see myself. I pretty much, for a long time, considered myself to be smarter than other people. And I never wanted to really look at that because I wanted to be humble and relatable to other people. And whenever I got out my stuff, it seemed like I was like being a know-it-all, but it's not that I know everything. I don't know anything, guys. You know, I'm just looking at the situation and using my own brain to think about things for myself. I'm not just taking, you know, what everybody says and what everybody tells me. I'm allowing myself to use my brain to cognize and come up with my own conclusions to everything. And for the longest time, I did not want to face that perhaps maybe I was actually smarter than most people. And because of that, there are multiple perspectives that I can have, and I can understand how people arrive at both perspectives. So therefore, I can be like, yeah, I agree with that, and yeah, I agree with that. But I thought it was something wrong with me, you know, because I wanted to relate to people, and I wanted to be humble, and I don't want to go around claiming that I know everything, because I don't. But coming off that way, I simply dumbed myself down to fit into other categories and groups of people because, well, I mean, when you're isolated and you're outcast from every group that you try to get into because you see through why they're in the group in the first place, you know, it triggers a fear response out of people, and they, that's why they outcast you, is because people, like I said, I made a video the other day talking about how groups of people, you know, when we feel like we fit in, we feel safe, because that's just an unconscious like DNA thing. Like, if we're not socially accepted, we're gonna die because we're probably gonna starve, and we can't really, you know, or we could possibly be killed, you know, by other people, you know, because you have opposing viewpoints, and it's a safety thing. It's a biological response, if that makes any sense. If you can follow along with what I'm saying, you can understand why this is important. So my ability to cognize on a higher level than what people are, it's not that they're not capable of it, they're just stuck where they're at, you know. They're accepting what's told to them, and then they're refusing to think for themselves about it and question and ask more questions about it. But the thing about this is that I have held multiple perspectives. Maybe that's the truth that I was unwilling to see. There's another truth that I was unwilling to face, about the fact that I wanted to give people more credit than what they deserved. And I was giving them the benefit of the doubt, and I didn't want to accept the fact that they were stuck. I wanted to believe that they could understand the same things that I could, and that they were just, because I wanted some people to meet me there, you know. I wanted some people to meet me at the level that I actually am able to see the whole situation. But that's simply not true. So I kept on telling myself, no, no, no. That's not true. That's not true. They get it. They understand. They totally can understand. Some people cannot understand. Or they're just refusing to, or, same thing. I'm refusing to accept the fact that, there's reasons why I have been outcasted from every single group that I've ever tried to get into, and why I always seem like I don't fit in here, and trying to dumb myself down to fit into any box. Yeah. For example, this morning this came up about like why I wanted to make a video on why I quit TikTok. And the reason why I quit TikTok was because I started it. It's the same reason why I started it. The same reason why I started it is the same reason why I quit it. I never was ever going to download TikTok ever in my life. Because I already saw through the mechanism and the trap that it is. A lot of systems these days in society are traps. They're mental traps, And so, me refusing to accept that I was trapped myself, or me refusing to accept maybe the reality that people are more trapped than they think. I wanted to understand, So I put myself in the trap to understand how people got there. And that's a difficult. For me right now, it's very difficult to move forward and know exactly what decision to make, because I can understand how people have arrived at their conclusions, and I can understand their perspective on why they think they're right. And really, there's no right or wrong. It's just relative to what you're experiencing and how you see what the situation and the context. What might be right to another might be wrong to another, depending on the information that they have at hand. It could seem wrong, that I, like, if you could tell the story of me coming to Hawaii in a very, very terrible light, you could be like, you're so wrong. And I've had so many people say, you're so wrong, Achilles, why would you ever do that? But if you understood the context of the situation, from my perspective, I'm right. So it's relative to what the context of the situation is. And there's no true amount of right or wrong. I like to think of it in temperature as like, the earth is a sweet spot for life. If it was just a little bit hotter, like 50 degrees hotter during the day, human life probably wouldn't be so sustainable. If it was, 50 degrees colder during the day, well, that wouldn't be so bad. But you get what I'm saying, is that like maybe 100 to 200, like say we didn't have, it's the temperature. It's about the temperature, okay? The reason why there's so much life is it's the perfect conditions. It's the perfect balance between the extremes. It's why it's unlivable in very hot places, right? It's because we live in that sweet spot, right in the middle, where human life can thrive, right? So when it comes to right and wrong, we're talking about duality and relativity. So, what's hot to another might be cold to another. And some people like the cold and some people like the hot. So it's relative to what you prefer and what your balance is, I guess. And that could be anything. With emotions, with dark and light, I prefer to walk at night in the dark because my eyes are well adjusted to the dark. And I really like it. I really like it. I love walking at night in the moonlight. Other people, they cannot see a thing, and it scares the crap out of them. I'm like, no, dude, this is comfortable. I love it. So, I mean, I don't know. That's not really a good analogy. Here comes the rain. Holy shit. Rain, sun, rain, sun, rain, sun. I don't know how long I'm going for. Oh, shit. It's already 20 minutes, dude. Oh, God. This is probably going to be a day where there's not much information here. I mean, there's a lot of information there already. I don't want to take this into 35 minutes. I really don't. So I'm going to wrap up the video for today because there's a lot of things that I need to process mentally throughout this day. I'm doing this purely for the sake of documenting and sharing my experience with others and challenging other people to do the same. Now, the way that I interpret the Two of Swords and how it's showing up in my life is very apparent. I need to make a decision on how I need to move forward, given the perspectives that I can occupy. I need to find a balance in between, but I also need to take the blindfold off and really look at the things that I refuse to look at. Maybe have a conversation with some people that I don't want to have because of these opposing points. But not making a decision, the thing about the Two of Swords is oftentimes not making decision is a decision. And so that would be the sentence for today, is that it doesn't matter if you don't make a decision. If you don't have that conversation, that is your decision. So if you want to stay where you're at, me back in the hammock, I got to move forward, but sometimes not having that conversation, that's what's making it hard to move forward, is what I'm saying. And so I needed to have that conversation with myself to realize, oh, there's nothing I can do about some people's capacity to understand and cognize and think for themselves. If they want to remain trapped in their mental sphere, their little box that they choose to operate in, and the operating systems that choose to run their minds, I cannot force them to get out of the box. And as much as I care and I want people to free their minds, I can't do it for them. You know, I have to do it for myself and be that example. Unfortunately, it's like I said, it's triggering, and I may seem like a know-it-all sometimes. I'm not being condescending, I'm not being rude, and that's why I don't really get attention online, is because sometimes I'm very condescending and frustrated and pissed off about the situation, but people mistake that for all kinds of things, and it's not like that. And I just, oh man, it's too much to really explain, and that's why this has gone on for so long. I just hope that you can follow along and understand, because I'm thinking about 100 different things at the same time while I'm trying to speak to you. So it doesn't really, I mean, you can see my freaking eyes moving around constantly. Like, I am seeing all kinds of stuff and experiencing all kinds of stuff in my mental realm, but I oftentimes cannot express that or speak that or share that with other people, and that's the goal of what I'm trying to do by documenting and being honest about my thoughts online, on YouTube, because this is how I operate. This is how my brain works, as best as I can articulate everything that I'm trying to say. Like, I just, there's more, though. There's more to it. That's why when I get it out, it turns into 30 minutes. It turns into an hour. It turns into hours. I can sit and talk about the same subject for 5 hours because I can connect the dots between so many different things. But having all these differing perspectives is hard and challenging for me to move forward. And I wanted to wrap up about I want to go back to the TikTok thing real quick, because I was going to make a video about talking about why I quit TikTok, and the reason why I quit TikTok was because of the reason why I started it. And the reason why I started it is because I understood that it was a mental trap, and I put myself in the mental trap and tried to reflect back, or try to understand. I tried to go down to the level of consciousness that everyone else occupies here right now in the social dynamic of the world, and why I don't fit in. But I didn't really see my value in the fact that I was actually on a mission and had a purpose for doing so. And then I kind of got lost in the sauce and became the lowest common denominator. And basically, the only thing that would get attention on TikTok or views, the only thing that would drive traffic is me being in a victim mindset. And I finally realized why. Like, oh, once I saw it happening to me, creating videos on TikTok and trying to get attention on TikTok showed me the mental attitudes and the mental, it drives your mental health down. Just plain and simple. And I didn't even realize my own value in the fact that I was turning myself into an experiment to see how people arrived at the mental spaces that they occupy. Because the mental spaces that they occupy, dictate their behavior. And so once I threw myself into the mechanism, then I could find out its inner workings and its pieces and how it affects human psychology and what's actually happening and what the AI algorithm is trying to push and do to humans. And to be honest, it is a psychological weapon. It's a psychological weapon meant to destroy. And I know that's hard to hear, but sometimes we become, when it comes to social media, we become puppets. And I saw myself become a puppet. And yes, I'm getting on the stage to play a character. Even when I turn this camera on and I post this on YouTube, I am still just playing a character. You don't know who's behind this camera. As much as you think you know, you don't. And that's the truth of it. And I've always known this, but I had to throw myself into a creator's perspective in order to gain a full view of the landscape. Get that bird's eye view that I was talking about. And so now that I understand both sides, my perspective and then the alternate perspective of why this stuff could be good, I particularly don't agree, but I understand the other perspective. I can occupy either perspective is what I'm saying. And so now it makes sense. But this is what I was, there's more that I'm probably refusing to accept and look at. And it's quite frankly more than I'd like to share here. So it's one of those days where I have to make a decision on how I'm going to move forward. Based off of the information that has come to light, because I am looking at what is hidden. I'm trying to find what is hidden here. And the thing that was hidden was my own value. And the fact that I am able to understand on this on a very high, deep, complex level is already insanely impressive. And I have fucking impressed myself on how much I have been able to wrap my head around. And I guess the thing that I was not wanting to look at is that some people just aren't there. And I keep on dumbing myself down to try to get attention. I'm not trying to get attention. The reason why I'm trying to get attention is because I feel like I have something important I need to say. And It's not because I'm insecure and I need attention. It's because, no, I have something important I need to tell you. And sometimes it can come off condescending and rude and know-it-all-ish. But the fact is that I'm comprehending and cognizing on a very high level. And my whole social experiment was not a bad idea. I was thinking I was like crazy or something. No, this was not a bad idea. This was actually what I set out to do, was find a career and a purpose for myself that actually made sense with my given talents and abilities to cognize and philosophize and understand human psychology and human behavior. And so using all of these tools, it's like tarot is a great tool that you can use to better your life, or you can destroy your life. And TikTok tarot is not the answer, guys. That's not the way to use it. I hate to say it, but I am in complete disagreement with the way that people have kind of turned it into a silly little joke. It's a powerful tool if you know how to use it. And so instead of complaining and refusing to look at the truth and trying to consider all two opposing perspectives at the same time, that's what kept me stuck for a long time. And now I feel like this is the end of the Two of Swords. This is me closing out that energy and moving on. But this is about discernment. It's about, like, yes, I can manage my emotions are no big deal now. But now I have the full ability to make a decision. But if I don't make a decision, that's still a decision. And so then that's why you stay stuck. And now I'm understanding why I was stuck. But this is actually a really good thing, because now that I can reflect using the symbolism of tarot to reflect upon what's actually going on internally and externally, what's happened over the past year, and setting out on the Fool's journey is like, oh, well, the Fool has to understand that I can't just go out on a whim and fucking be all optimistic and crazy. The Fool is turning into somebody who needs a little bit of discernment. This is a pause, a moment to stop and think. And maybe there's a little bit too much thinking and a little bit too much inaction because there's too much thinking. And the main reason why you're thinking is because the two perspectives are opposing each other, and there's things that you are refusing to look at, and there's stuff that is hidden that you're not really seeing right now. You got a blindfold on and the moon, you know? It's underneath the surface. It's in the unconscious. So, this is how it applies. Okay? And that's why I think it's very important to take the challenge upon yourself and create your own way of relating these symbols and these cards and embodying it and going through the Fool's journey to actually see what really happens when you use the power of the tool in the way that it's intended. And when you actually do intentional readings that give you an honest look into your psyche and your situations to really become more aware and become more conscious. It is a map of consciousness and aspects of self, inner and outer, that we all get to become more aware of. And that's how consciousness says, I am here now. So, becoming aware. Waking up. Now, this has turned into such a cliche and a trope and a kind of a joke. Wake up! Everybody wake up! Everybody needs to wake up! No. I'm so awake. You're so awake that you're asleep, buddy. It's about awareness. Waking up is about awareness. So, it's a tool to wake up your consciousness to think for yourself, not to go online and click on a reading that says you're about to receive stuff or wonderful things. I mean, It's not how it works, you know? I mean, it works on your psychology like that, and it can be a destructive tool, but we have to use it with intention in order to build something, to become more aware, not to make myself asleep. So when we use the tool in a destructive manner, it does the opposite. Think about when we flip a card in reverse, it means the opposite. So that means truth coming to light, things I'm able to move forward on a decision now. I am able to have an uncomfortable conversation. Things like this. It's the same thing. That corresponds to us having a if I can use the tool to destroy my mental health and put myself back to sleep, or I can use the tool to bring myself more aware and become more conscious. So that is the point of the challenge, is to reverse what is happening on TikTok and YouTube. Because I put myself to sleep to understand how not to use the tool. Now I can show how to use the tool. So when you do your readings, do them intentionally with a structured system that keeps you honest and has you reflecting on the meaning and the interpretations. Don't just consume readings on TikTok and YouTube. Get a deck of cards. If you actually genuinely like this stuff, do it for yourself and use it the way it's intended. Don't allow somebody else to destroy your mind and your consciousness to put you back to sleep. We want to use it to wake ourselves back up, intentionally, with purpose and clarity. Just like when I use a knife, it's like, if I just fucking wave that shit around, and I run with scissors, I'm probably going to cut myself eventually, you know? But if I'm very clear and intentional in saying, I need to cut up this onion, that's what I'm using it for. You pick up the tool, you cut the onion, you put it back, you clean it off, and you put it back in its drawer. You know? Okay? If I'm just waving that shit around, I'm going to hurt somebody or myself. And so I hope that makes it very apparent how important this is. Don't blame the knife for cutting you. You're not going to get mad. Oh, the knife. All knives are bad. Come on. Anyway, I've gone on way too long, but that sums up the Two of Swords for today, and that's all I can really do for today. I'm going to reflect on the rest of the day on my personal stuff. I really hope this has helped you. I really hope this is reaching somebody. And if it has, thank you for joining me all the way to the end and following this mess that is my mind. Absolute insanity. And on that note being said, just take up the challenge for yourself. Use the tool in a direct manner. Go in an intentional manner. Apply it to your subjective experience, internally and externally, and challenge other people to do the same. Let's make this into a trend or a movement. I hate trends. I'm not a trendy social person. I don't like trends. I don't like going along with that. That's not who I am. But I'm trying to start my own because I'm supposed to be leading the way. I'm an Aries. That's what I'm passionate about, is philosophy, psychology, human behavior, what we get ourselves into, and all of this stuff. Occult symbolism, archetypes, all kinds of shit. That's what I'm passionate about. And so I really want to share and share my perspective. And I hope it helps somebody. So if it did, please let me know. Read the description. If you want to send me a message and let me know that you want to send me your thoughts or your videos, obviously leave a comment if you can follow along with what I'm saying. If you made it to the end, I don't know. If you made it to the end, thank you. Just join the challenge with me is all I ask. Don't just passively consume me and worship me, and give me all your time, energy, and attention. Give some time, energy, and attention to yourself, and invest this apply this knowledge. Don't just consume more knowledge, because the more you seek and search, you'll always be seeking and searching until you find yourself and you say, okay, I'm found, I'm good. That's when you'll be found. The search never ends, and we fluctuate between the two, and that's okay. That's the balance of life. That's the duality. That's the nature of it. So, but sometimes we just got to stop and say, okay, I found enough information, now let me do something with it. And so that's what I'm asking you to do. That's the only thing I really ask you to do, is share with me that you are following along, and then also, more importantly, take the information and apply it to your life, however that looks. But join the challenge, go through the journey, walk the path, don't just talk about it, and don't just passively consume it on YouTube. Alright, so have fun. I'll see you tomorrow. I don't know what sword's gonna be, what swords? 3 of Swords? Yeah, 3 of Swords, 2 of Wands, Ace of Cups, or what's the other one? 2 of Pentacles, 2 of Pentacles, 2 of Pentacles, balance. Could be a 2 of Pentacles day, who knows? I don't know. We're going to see what pops up. Actually, we've done Magician, Ace of Pentacles, 2 of Swords. We could either do one more minor, or we could move on to High Priestess. I don't know yet. So, if the High Priestess shows up, we might go with the High Priestess, but I don't know. Just depends on which one pops out first in tomorrow's reading in the morning. And maybe we could do that together and decide together, but maybe I need to start including that. But these are deeply personal readings that I don't want to just share with everybody, because there's a lot going on that shouldn't be shared. Because, like I said, people perceive it as wrong, even though I know from my perspective I'm right. But nobody's ever right or wrong. It's relative. It's relative to truth and understanding. Nobody ever has the whole fucking truth. Anyway, so have fun. I'll see you tomorrow. If you're following along, I'll see you on the next video. Have fun. See you later.